Bon, je vous souhaite la bienvenue.
Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Standing Committee on Official Languages. Today's meeting is happening in a hybrid format, and for those of you that are attending virtually, please click on the microphone button to speak and make sure that you mute if you are not speaking. Now, with respect to taking the floor, make sure that you are recognized before you take the floor, and all comments should be made through the chair. I would ask you to raise your hands if you seek to speak, whether you be here or via Zoom. The clerk of the committee and myself will do our utmost to maintain the speaking order. Pursuant to Section 106.4, the committee is meeting pursuant to a discussion to request to undertake a study of French in government communications. So I will open the floor to Mr. Villeneuve. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am aware of the note that was sent out by my colleagues. I'll start by saying that, first off, I'd like to table a notice of motion. I'll start by saying that I'm a Francophone. I'm a proud Francophone, and I think it is important that French be spoken at all orders of government and all levels of our government. If you will allow me, I'll read my motion. It's the first time I've ever done this, so I just want to make sure that I'm doing this. Pursuant to the Radio-Canada article stating that the Prime Minister's use of France pursuant to 103.2 of the Standing Order, that the committee study the use of French in the government, that the committee invite the minister responsible for official languages, the representatives from the department, and the clerk of the Privy Council to appear to address this issue, and for the committee to allocate 2 meetings for this study. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Villeneuve. Did you have anything else to add about this motion, Mr. Villeneuve, before I move to the next comment? Very well. This motion was circulated in both official languages, correct? Mr. Beaulieu, I will call for a vote.
De M. Deschênes-Thériault, je te reconnais.
Mr. Deschênes-Thériault, I recognize you. Point of order, Mr. Chair. When my colleague called for the vote, no one had actually asked to speak. According to procedure, and correct me if I'm wrong, we need to move to the vote, correct? Let's suspend. I'll consult the clerk. Well, I've spoken with the clerk. Mr. Gaudin, you are right, once again. This wouldn't be a first. Thank you. Thank you for admitting this, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if it's the first and the last time, but once again, I've spoken to the clerk, it is accurate that once the vote is called for, if I haven't seen anyone else who asked for the opportunity to speak, then we do need to move to the vote immediately. Point of order. My colleague asked for the vote, but do we not need to see if we are prepared to move to the vote? I'm not sure procedurally. Two-thirds of the members, according to my understanding, need to agree to move to the vote. Is that not how it works at the committee?
Je suspends.
I'll suspend.
Contre.
We'll resume. Colleagues, I'll read Rule 116. Unless there's a limit to the length of time a debate can go on, the chair cannot end a debate when members seek to take part in it. A chair's decision in this regard can be the subject of an appeal by the committee. What I think is that Mr. Beaulieu asked for the vote. It is accurate that I did not see any other names on the list, but when I turned to the other side, I saw that Mr. Deschênes-Thériault wanted to speak. What I'd like to do is give Mr. Deschênes-Thériault the floor. A point of order, Mr. Chair. My interpretation, and you've said it, is this. When there's a debate, the chair cannot interrupt it. There was no debate. There was no debate. Mr. Beaulieu called for the vote. And further to that, that's when my colleague raised his hand. And you yourself just said you had nothing on your list, no speakers on your list. I understand the clause, but I don't I submit to you that it doesn't apply in these circumstances. I'd call on your judgment as usual.
Monsieur Deschenteriaux, sur l'appel au règlement. Oui, sur l'appel au
On the
règlement.
on the point of order, I would mention that there was no opportunity to have a debate when the chair mentioned the motion, asked if there was anyone who had anything to say about this. Mr. Beaulieu raised the hand. I raised my hand right after Mr. Beaulieu started speaking. I raised my hand, not realizing that Mr. Beaulieu wasn't going to contribute to the debate itself. I didn't get an opportunity to say that I wanted to take part. And all of this happened in a few seconds. There was no legitimate, real opportunity for me to raise my hand and speak. I feel that the debate was not over when Mr. Beaulieu asked for the vote because we didn't, on this side, didn't get an opportunity to say that we did want to take part in the debate. I have Mr. Beaulieu and then Mr. Gaudin. I think that if the regulations state that when there has been nothing else mentioned, that when there is a vote called for, that we then move to the vote, I think we should not be flexible on the interpretation of this because it will be difficult to follow any of these rules. There have been cases where the chair has made some decisions, and I was shocked by that, but that's how things went. Mr. Gaudin, Mr. Chair, let me share the facts. I understand my colleague's point, but there was silence. If you go back and look, you know how they used to say you called it during hockey games, call Toronto to find out what happened. There was a moment of silence. Mr. Beaulieu spoke to ask for the vote. And then Mr. Deschenteriaux raised his hand. In my view, he should not be recognized. Mr. Chair, I can tell you straight away that I will be challenging you if you disagree and don't side with me on this.
OK. Donc, écoutez,
This is a really important subject to discuss. I'll say what I decided. First, I'm going to read the rule. They can't end a debate if members present want to participate. I heard a request to continue the debate. People still want to participate. Someone had his hand raised. It also says a decision by the chair cannot be called into question. Point of order. With all due respect, it's my first meeting here. When Mr. Beaulieu asked for the vote, there was no hand raised, and with all due respect to my colleague, I saw it. It was his assistant who told him to raise his hand, or someone behind him, a team member behind him. And they had already asked for the vote before he raised his hand. That's clear. There are several requests to speak. Mr. Chair, because we all have questions, can we suspend for a few moments to discuss? Suspending.
OK, on recommence la rencontre.
We're going to start back up. I understand that to be collaborative, MPs have spoken about the point of order. And Mr. Deschantario, over to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to say why we support the motion of my colleague, Mr. Villeneuve. In terms of the Liberal Party, we are the party that has always supported official languages. I represent a mainly Francophone dynamic community. The protection of the official languages and the Canadian Francophonie has always been a priority for me. That's also one of the things that motivated me to get into federal politics, notably with the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party is the party that adopted the first Official Languages Act that made English and language our official languages. They adopted the Charter with Article 23 that gave us the right to French schooling everywhere in the country. That's also under the Liberal government that put the first active action plan for official languages. The Liberal government also reinvested in official languages through the 2018-2023 action plan, and more recently in 2023, we brought the biggest investment in official languages, taking inflation into account in the history of the country. We underwent an ambitious redoing of the OLA. So the bar is high and we need to maintain it at that level. The two official languages are fundamentally Canadian, and they must be reflected throughout all levels of government, notably via using French in each echelon of government, and it must be reflected there. And we are aware that in terms of the Prime Minister, we need to have an important presence of French in his communications, and I think that's reflected in the content of the motion of my colleague, Mr. Villeneuve, and that's why we're going to support it. Thank you. Thank you. Would anyone else like to contribute to the discussion? No? Vote? Okay, over to the clerk. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're voting on the motion of Mr. Villeneuve.
Madame Mingarelli.
Oui.
Monsieur Villeneuve.
Oui.
Monsieur Godin.
Contre.
Monsieur Dalton.
Non.
Madame Vien.
Contre.
Monsieur Lefebvre.
Contre.
Monsieur Beaulieu. Pour 4, contre 5.
La motion n'est pas adoptée.
Mr. Godin, over to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We don't really consider it the same as the Liberals. I've been here for 10 years, and unfortunately, I participated in the modernization of the OLA, and unfortunately, it was underwhelming. I recognize that their Prime Minister must speak French more. However, their motion, according to me, represents the same model as the OLA. It's underwhelming. It is making French in Canada banal. And now I will share my motion, the motion that I am going to table, and I can send it to you via email, Mrs. Clerk. Is that okay? No, I have it. Can you send it via email as well, please? Thank you. So what's important is to take the necessary. We know we have a bilingual Governor General, but she doesn't speak French. And we have a really long action plan that makes Francophonie and the use of French banal. That's how I see things. And when I travel in Canada, like I was recently in a Francophone school district, the Francophones appreciate the work that we do, the Conservatives do, to ensure that there's no backtracking, but they would have liked to do more. And I will explain a little bit of the history. I won't go on endlessly, but it's really important. We found in the last census 300,000 who had the right to that entitlement, and it was a multi-party fight. And now I will read my motion. According to this regulation, according to which the Prime Minister has 17%, has only deliver 70% of his public remarks in French, whereas he committed to improving. So point 8, that the committee invite the President of the Treasury Board, because the only who is in the law who has the responsibility to go and speak to all ministers and ensure the respect of the French language is the President of the Treasury Board. Did you know that he has no power in the OLA, and that he appear for at least 2 hours separately and during 2 specific meetings in order to speak about the state of official bilingualism in Canada and the government's plan to ensure the equal status of French in federal communication? B, that the committee have another meeting to hear a group of witnesses proposed by each recognized party, composed of experts and community groups, to testify to the decline of French in Canada and the importance of its use at the highest level. C, that according to Article 108, the committee order the production of all documents indicating the activities in the Prime Minister's agenda since his arrival, including all documents that indicate his French tutoring, electronically in 21 days in order to evaluate the extent to which the Prime Minister respected his commitment to improve his French. I think we need to take that seriously, and everyone who will say, oh, take care of the economy, don't worry about bilingualism in Canada, it's a mistake, well, they're mistaken. And I think it's important to be proud of our bilingualism, French and English bilingualism. I always say that because we have a Governor General, and I respect her, but she doesn't speak French. And so I think it's important. We need to do concrete actions, and that's why we need to act. Mr. Chair, we need to remember that Stephen Harper started all his speeches in French, and Pierre Poilievre opens question period with half of his questions in French. That's showing the intention to respect the official languages. That's what we expect of the Prime Minister. The Francophones and Francophiles are resilient. They won't demand 50%, and they don't demand a perfect French, but we want to see a desire, an intention, and it must change. Thank you. I have Mr. Beaulieu, and then Mr. Beaulieu. I'd say overall, we support Mr. Godin's motion. We think French, we agree that the fact that Mr. Carney speaks in French less than previous prime ministers, it sends a signal that, okay, he's the head of state, he's using French less. It sends a signal to employees of the state that French is a second language, and the bilingual model, to add on to what my Liberal colleague said, the Official Languages Act is, since it came into force, has coincided with a reduction in the use of French. And after the Laurent Do Commission, well, they wanted a particular status for Quebec to reinforce French because it was the heart of the French-Canadian society. He was a federalist. And the opposite happened. Someone else came into the picture, and he gave Quebec a specific status to support English, saying that in Quebec, the minority is English. And so there was a law where, we're protecting provincial linguistic minorities. And so in Quebec, Anglophones are linguistic minorities, and so there was an underfinancing and attempts to hinder Francophone education in Quebec during 200 years. And when the OLA came into force, what did we decide? Well, that the federal government, that's the English Canadian government, is going to...
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, Mr. Beaulieu. Could I ask for the meeting to be suspended so that we can talk about the motion together, because we didn't receive it, because we didn't get it in before the meeting. Well, Mr. Beaulieu has the floor, and you will be able to speak after him. You're on the list. And then you can ask for a suspension. Yes, well, I'll be brief. Mr. Carney should speak more French, broadly, but he should also take action for French. Right now, he's doing the opposite. He's challenging Bill 101/96 at the Supreme Court. That's what he would say. That's what he said he would do. The Liberals said they would protect French in Quebec, but now they're continuing to promote English in Quebec exclusively. They cut some support program, and now we see there's funding for health services in English only, whereas in Montreal we're needing more and more in French. So I would move an amendment. I support the motion in general, but would you like me to read it right away in point B? Point A, at the end is to uphold the equal status and a community discuss bilingualism, and I would add and the use of French in federal institutions in Quebec, because the charter allows for French, and French is the only recognized language. And I have a second amendment. Excuse me, so that the clerk can. Could you please? Yeah, we'll send it. Yes, that would be useful, says the chair. We can always talk about the motion, the spirit of the motion. Overall, what I'm saying is that it's got to go a little bit further. It's not just Mr. Carney's French, even though that's important. It's symbolic. We need to broaden it to include the impact of English, which is predominant in federal institutions in Quebec. We can talk about it again. Thank you, Mr. Beaulieu. So what I would ask, I know that there's a motion. There are two amendments that you're proposing. If you agree, could you please send your amendments to the clerk, one amendment at a time? That is the rule. Share with the clerk so she can distribute it. What I would propose is that we suspend the meeting so that members can look at the motions and the amendments. So I'll suspend.
full amendment? Yeah, okay, so let's call the question. Madam Clerk? We're
L'amendement.
voting on Mr. Beaulieu's amendment. That is the sentence as well as au Québec or in Quebec in point B. Madam,
Monsieur Deschênes-Thériault,
Contre.
Madame Mingarelli,
Contre.
Monsieur Villeneuve,
Je m'abstiens.
Monsieur Godin,
En faveur.
Monsieur Dalton,
Pour.
Madame Vien,
en faveur?
Monsieur Lefebvre,
Pour.
Monsieur Beaulieu. Donc 5 pour, 2 contre.
5 in favor, 2 against. Mr. Beaulieu's amendment carries. Now, let's move to Mr. Godin's original motion. Mr. Dalton, you have the floor. Yes, briefly, I just wanted to affirm the importance of this motion. This is an important motion. According to the Radio-Canada study, they looked at 500 speeches delivered by the Prime Minister. But only a small portion of what he says is in French. I appreciate that everyone acknowledges the importance of French in the ridings. I think I'm the only representative here from west of Ontario, but I've been sitting on this committee for a number of years now. And we've heard from many witnesses, many representatives, that the French language is important to hundreds of thousands of Canadians out west and outside of Quebec. So it's a signal. The fact that there's very little use of French outside of Quebec. So I think it's important to focus on this, to try to manage sort of his direction in this sense, because he's the one who is the highest ranking representative of our countries. It's important that he set an example. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Madame Chenette. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I simply wanted to say that there is no doubt that our Prime Minister wants to share French and values French. There's no doubt. Now, these two official languages are at the heart of the Canadian identity. It's been said, and we must say that assuredly. They are an integral part of making building a strong Canada, and it's all the more so important when we need to focus on strengthening the Canadian economy, and that both languages are alive in our economic development. And in the same way, to see that the growth of the francophonie globally is a given. The economic leadership that matters for all of Parliament also requires both official languages. There's no doubt. Our government promotes and protects the French language throughout the country, and this is why we modernized the Official Languages Act. So, point of order, Mr. Chair. I'd like my colleague to be able to speak to the motion that we're actually addressing. She's now referring to her government and mentioning how this government is very sensitive to official languages. I mean, that's not our rating of things, and she's not going to convince us of it today. Can she focus her comments on the motion at hand? The members have the opportunity to say whatever they so choose to say regarding the amendment. Madame Chenette, you have the floor. If you'll allow me, I would add this slight nuance in the sense that you have to understand the importance of our two official languages and link those with our Canadian reality. In this context, respecting the Prime Minister's commitment to improving his French, I agree, and I'm convinced that he believes in the importance of both official languages because we need to be exemplary. So it's important that the head of government do his best to speak both languages. Now, how to go about ensuring that he does indeed focus on improving French. And it's this issue of improving French that matters. I would add that learning French is not something that is done solely in a classroom. That happens by practicing. It requires practice. And how do you practice? Through discussions and not necessarily strictly through training. And, people produce briefing notes and we focus on both official languages there. So it's on those aspects that I have some questions about the motion before us because there's a desire to uphold those commitments, and it's important in terms of leadership, not only for our Prime Minister, but for all of our governments. I can share that in this context, in a prior life as an ambassador to the OECD, I saw net progress in the use of French by government representatives. So you really have to look at that. How is French evolving? It's important to see what that means. I myself am a proud Quebecer, and of course I want to make sure French is valued, but I also want to value the francophonie inside of Canada and also what this means internationally. And that's the role of the Prime Minister, of course, but it's also the role of all the deputy ministers and all teams in our government to make sure that it is clear that both official languages are alive and well. This is why I want to focus on the point of relevance of this study. The study needs to be done to really validate the status of things, but it's also important to make sure that we have the right means to assess how things are progressing. And that's the question that I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Mr. Deschantel, you have the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to the motion raised by Mr. Gaudin, point A states the importance of discussing the state of official bilingualism in Canada and the government's plan to uphold the equal status of French and English in federal communications. This is at the heart of the Official Languages Act. Those are objectives within the Act. I'd like to continue in the same vein as my colleague who was mentioning the important work that's been done in modernizing the Official Languages Act. This modernization was not only at a surface level, but really a fundamental level where many changes were made, the importance of protecting and promoting French in each province and territory. You'll remember that French is a minority language in North America and in Canada. It's important to use French at all levels of government, and it's in keeping with that notion. We agree that Mr. Chair, I have a point of order.
In the notice of meeting, it was supposed to go between 6:30 and 7:30. Given what the Liberals have been saying for the last 10 minutes, well, now it's 7:30. We have to make a decision. What are we going to do? Unfortunately, there are some colleagues that can't stay tonight. So I don't know. Are we going to go around the table, or are we going to have our witnesses tomorrow? Oh, are we going to eat into the witness time tomorrow in order to deal with the file that seems to be very close to being finished, and the Liberals are trying to stall? on your point of order, and then Mr. Deschênes-Thériault. I hope we'll be able to finish. Otherwise, we're going to have to suspend the meeting and continue it tomorrow. On the point of order, I don't think that all the debate time isn't over, so there are still things we have to add to the debate, and the motion hadn't been sent in advance. It was just tonight, so I haven't finished. On my point of order, he's on your point of order. Yes, but when we affirm things, Mr. Chair, he didn't get our motion in advance because that makes sense given the procedures, and his colleague Villeneuve tabled a similar motion right before the meeting, and so don't call me out on this when you don't pretend that we're in bad faith when my friends across the aisle, they're in bad faith. And I haven't finished my point because if I could have finished, I wasn't accusing anyone of being in bad faith. It was just to mention that because we didn't get the motion, well, we still have things to add to this debate. We have 3 points, ABC, things that we don't agree with as much. And as you mentioned, we didn't have the motion. That makes sense. We have not finished debating on it. And so, in my opinion, we're not ready to vote. And I think we need to continue the debate because we're not, we still want to talk about it. And so, as we discussed on the same point of order, what my colleague just said, unfortunately, tomorrow's witnesses will not have as much time, and it's a continuum on education that will be, witnesses came to testify here, and it's too bad. They're not talking about a point of order anymore. He was talking about a point of debate. As we mentioned earlier, the chair does not have the right to stop a debate if there are people who want to speak. So if there are members who would like to speak to the motion, they have the right to do so. I do not have the right to cut the debate short. And so Mr. Deschênes-Thériault had the floor, except that in the notice of meeting, we have we have a lot on the agenda. 2 of my colleagues have to go. This is supposed to go from 6:30 to 7:30. We thought it would be easy to deal with this. Unfortunately, the attitude of our colleagues across the aisle means that it's not possible to wrap up. Now it's 7:33, and so, Mr. Chair, you have a decision to make, and I am obligated to say that if you don't have consensus, well, we can't go forward. To clarify, I do not have a decision to make because I do not have the right as a chair to cut the debate short. So if colleagues want to speak, they have the right. If no one else wants to speak, then we can go to a vote. Is this to the point of order? Yes. I'd like to know, first off, do you have other names on your list of members who would like to speak? If there's just Mr. Deschênes-Thériault, well, then afterwards we can vote, and if there are other people after Mr. Deschênes-Thériault, well, unfortunately, that'll cut into the witnesses' time tomorrow. And so who else is on your list? I don't have anyone else on the list. At the same time, members have the right to participate if they so choose. Mr. Deschênes-Thériault, over to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the notice of meeting tonight was circulated with the opposition in full knowledge that there were meetings tomorrow and the agenda was established in good faith. We had the study on education. We had the study on AI and digital transformation and French within the government. They're really relevant subjects. It's sad because 2 weeks ago, we agreed that these were subjects we had to debate on. And so, Mr. Villeneuve, if you really want to be in good faith, well, he just tabled this motion that's so similar. I'd like to ask to suspend the meeting because we have other obligations. We're in the middle of debate. I can't suspend just because you have other obligations. So are we going to keep going until 3 a.m.? I'll speak with clerk. I propose to adjourn if you'll give me the floor. To suspend the debate.
Mais si vous me proposez, je ne parlerai pas 3 heures. Oui.
Dis-le.
Ben, en fait, je propose de suspendre les débats.
I propose to suspend the debate.
Sans pour...
OK, on revient.
And we'll start back up. So, Mr. Deschanteriot, clearly we can't go on for much longer because the committee was slated to go until 7:30. One moment, please. If we adjourn, what will happen is that the discussion will continue tomorrow during the planned meeting for another study. Second option, we can adjourn the debate and agree that we will start the discussion again another day in order to not cut into the time allotted for the study tomorrow. Those are the two options. The committee will decide, Mr. Deschanteriot. I propose the debate be adjourned and continued another day where there are no witnesses. I hadn't finished. He asked for time. Mr. Beaulieu, go ahead. I move to suspend the meeting. No, I didn't say that in the beginning. I asked for the debate to be adjourned. Those were my exact words. I asked for the adjournment of the debate. In any case, tomorrow we can talk during the motions. We need to agree on something. If we keep on, no one can prevent us from continuing tomorrow. Mr. Godin, just one moment, please. What Mr. Deschanteriot proposed, I propose for the debate to be adjourned. It's a dilatory motion. We're voting on Mr. Deschanteriot's motion that the debate be adjourned. Madame Chanette, yes. Mr. Deschanteriot, yes. Oh.
Monsieur Villeneuve.
Oui.
Monsieur Godin.
Contre.
Monsieur Dalton.
Non.
Madame Vien.
Contre.
Monsieur Lefebvre.
Contre.
Monsieur Beaulieu.
Contre.
4 pour, 5 contre.
Donc, la motion est rejetée. Je passe la parole à...
And now over to you, Monsieur Godin. We just witnessed a concrete action. The Liberals, by adjourning, we haven't said when we're going to come back. And so they acted like that. It's unacceptable. I ask for us to suspend the committee, tonight's committee, and that we come back to the issue at hand as soon as possible.
Monsieur Deschênes-Thériault, vous voulez...
Mr. Deschênes-Thériault, over to you. We, and before Mr. Gaudin's point of order, I hadn't finished with my time, so I was interrupted by a point of order on behalf of Mr. Gaudin, so I still have the floor. Yes, you have the floor. And I would like to I propose that the meeting be adjourned. So not the debate, the meeting. Earlier, I asked for the debate to be adjourned. Now I'm asking for the meeting to be adjourned. It's a dilatory motion. To the clerk and vote. We're voting on Mr. Deschênes-Thériault's motion.
Monsieur Deschênes-Thériault. Monsieur Deschênes-Thériault.
Oui.
Madame Mingarelli.
Oui.
Monsieur Villeneuve.
Oui.
Monsieur Godin.
Contre.
Monsieur Dalton.
Non.
Monsieur Bélanger.
Non, Monsieur Bélanger.
Pardon. Monsieur...
Madame Vien?
Madame Vien, pardon.
Contre.
Monsieur Lefebvre.
Contre.
Monsieur Beaulieu. Pour 4, contre 5.
Donc la motion est rejetée.
So the motion is rejected. And can I continue? Point of order. The meeting is over. There are interpreters, there are technicians. This is unacceptable that we're forcing this on them, and it's hard-headedness on the part of my colleague. And so, Mr. Chair, I'm asking for this meeting to be suspended immediately and for us to move to a vote. And so, as long as someone has the floor, I cannot suspend debate. Mr. Gaudin, there are other members in line. As long as a member has the floor, I cannot stop the meeting. I cannot adjourn the meeting without the agreement of all colleagues. I'll ask for a break and I'll consult with the clerk.
J'ai pas terminé mon droit de parole, Monsieur Lefebvre.
I haven't finished my time speaking. Is the meeting suspended? No.
OK, les collègues, la greffière...
Dear colleagues, the clerk has informed me that Mr. Gaudin's motion is a dilatory motion, so we are going to vote on Mr. Gaudin's motion. So, Madam Clerk, can you clarify the motion? So, the motion... he asked that the committee be suspended. Very important, yes. So that the committee be suspended, adjourned. And so now to a vote.
On est encore dans l'apprentissage de comment ça fonctionne ici. Il y a
Pour
du
ou contre?
sport.
Oh, wow, it's a real sport today. But is it really a dilatory motion? Because, point of order, because colleagues, I'm asking for the order of the committee. I'm asking for a bit of order. So first off, during a vote, there's no debate. There's no point of order. The clerk is bringing a vote on a dilatory motion on behalf of Mr. Godin. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the dilatory motion is that the committee be suspended.
Contre.
Monsieur Deschênes-Thériault,
Contre.
Madame Mingarelli,
Contre.
Monsieur Villeneuve,
Contre.
Monsieur Godin,
En faveur.
Monsieur Dalton,
Pour.
Madame Vien,
Pour.
Monsieur Lefebvre,
Pour.
Monsieur Beaulieu. Pour 5, contre 4.
On est suspendu.